Shalom. First and foremost, want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ba'ashem Rakak Radash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule well. Peace and love and salutation to all the brothers out there pushing his word of sincerity and the truth. Shalom to the brothers, sisters, and children out there keeping his word of sincerity and the truth. Okay, I wanted to go into a lesson based off of how this transition from, being who we were or who we was in the world, and how, the characteristics, the things that you did, and not like, more so what I'm focusing on is the character of who you was in this world versus who you are in this truth, and how the more we transition and become how Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua designed us to be, the more it feels like home. And I was inspired to do this lesson based off of my own experiences this past weekend, where and we all, we ain't perfect, so we still go off in the flesh in certain aspects. Or you might go off somewhere, you might do something, or whatever the case may be. It's wrong, whatever the case is. This, that, and the third. We all fall short. But me, and let me go and drink some water because I ain't gonna be doing this all listen. All right, Salaki. But me personally, like I said, sometimes you get frustrated too with yourself. But you gotta be, you gotta be patient. You gotta be understanding, because we are in the flesh, and it's a struggle. It's a fight. So with me personally, me getting frustrated with myself this past weekend, I was like, I just want to go home. I had thought that in the spirit, but I didn't mean, I went, and of course, we ready to go home physically. We ready to get out of this place, Babylon the Great. But that's not, through the spirit, I knew that's not what I was saying. Because I can't even remember if I said it in the spirit or if I said it out loud. But I know for sure I remember saying that, I just want to go home. But I was referring to the state in which I was prior to my frustration. And I had to kind of correct myself, because I ain't want to make it seem, I was talking to myself, talking amongst myself. I know, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, he listens to us, he hears us, and he hears us, in our frustrations, he's there with us. So I knew, regardless, even if because I was alone, but I knew that even though I was physically alone, we are never alone. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is always with us. So, like I said, I was just kind of like dialoguing as if I was talking to him directly, face to face, saying, I don't mean go home and saying like I don't want to be on the earth or nothing no more. I ain't want to be alive or nothing. I was just saying, in the spirit, I wanted to go back to the state that I was in prior to, my frustration and being upset about being in this flesh and everything, But that's what kind of inspired this lesson, because us in our natural state, us as Israelites, we have the same characteristics of Jacob, as it describes how he was. And that is like home for us, because the more our character transformed from who we was in this world to who we was always meant to be, the more we get introduced to who we really are. We get introduced to ourselves. And I just wanted to get the definition of home, and I'm just get to the main point. It says a place right here, a place where something flourishes is most typically found, or from where it originates. You get the definition of originates. It says have a specific beginning, or, have a specific beginning or arise. So it says a place where something flourishes, where it's prosperous, that is most typically found, or who is most typically found with, and or from where it originates. So from there, understanding that that's the definition that we're focusing on when it comes to home, I'm gonna get Genesis 25, and we're gonna go into specifically the characteristics of Jacob and how we see the most majority of our people. They're not operating in this mindset, in this fashion, trying to become who they were supposed to be, or who they had a potential to be, the best version of themselves. This is Genesis 25. I'm reading the KJV. And Isaac entreated the Lord of his wife for his wife because she was barren, and the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah, his wife, conceived. And the children, I'm going to read verse 22 in the AMP. No, 23 in the AMP, but 22 KJV. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. Now, verse 23 in the AMP. The Lord said to her, the founders of two nations are in your womb, and the separation of two nations have begun in your body. The one people shall be stronger than the other, and the older shall serve the younger. When her days to be fulfilled, to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. The first came out reddish all over like a hairy garment, and they named him Esau. It says afterward his brother came out, and his hand grasped Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob, one who grabs by the heel, supplanter. Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. Now, verse 27, I'm going to get in multiple translations. So it says, starting the KJV, and the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter, a man of the field, and Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. Now we're going to get the interlinear on plain to get an understanding of Jacob's characteristic. And this is plain. It says, which I guess I get the Hebrew word for it too. 1 second. It's Thamah. That's the Hebrew word for it, Thamah. And it says to be perfect or complete, perfect, one who lacks nothing in physical strength or beauty. It says to be sound, wholesome, and ordinary, quiet sort of person. But down here it says complete, morally innocent, having integrity, one who is morally and ethically pure. And this is going into characteristics of Jacob and ultimately the Israelites in general. Let's get morally. It says, with reference to the principles of right and wrong behavior in a way that is considered right according to the code of conduct of a particular society. So he was morally right. And then it says ethically in a way that relates to moral principles in a morally good or correct manner, in a way that avoids activities or organizations that do harm to people or the environment. So the ways of Jacob pleased Yahweh Ba'ashim Habashai so much that he was considered to be morally and ethically pure. And let's get definition for pure. It says, not mixed or adulterated with any substance or material. Now let's get to the, here it is. Wholesome and untainted by immorality, especially that of a sexual nature. So he was wholesome and untainted. He wasn't corrupt. That's the characteristics of Jacob. That's characteristics of Israelites. But here goes some more synonyms. It says virtuous, moral, ethical, good, righteous, angelic, saintly, pious, honorable, reputable, wholesome and clean, honest, upright, upstanding, exemplary, which I'm not going to read every single last one of them, but you get the point. All of these synonyms, blameless, guiltless, sinless, which is not saying that he didn't, he didn't commit no sin. It's just going into his characteristics, his conduct. This is who he was. So these are all characteristics of Jacob, the Israelites. And the more we cleave to Yahweh Ba'ashim Habashai, and our minds constantly being renewed, and we're transforming from this world and the ways of this world, and who we was into this in this world, to the ways of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua, we too become like Jacob. You know, that transition continually happens. And anytime we fall away from that, you can tell, you feel it, you know. It's just like with Adam and Eve. Well, especially Adam. Because as soon as he went off and he sinned, he felt it, you know. He felt the Spirit of the Lord leave him. He knew that something was off, something wasn't right. You know, it didn't feel good to not be, you know, in tune with how he was or how he was created to be. Because remember, we were created to be righteous. And I'm going to get more into that later. It says complete, perfect, sound, wholesome of Jacob as a tent dweller, opposed to Esau, a hunter. And that hunter is also a hunter of men, a hunter of people. He's looking to control and trap people, you know, and not just animals. And then it says complete, morally innocent, having integrity. Let's get integrity. It says honest, the quality of being honest, having strong moral principles, moral uprightness, the state of being a whole and undivided, the condition of being unified, unimpaired, or sound in construction. Right. So like I said, these are characteristics of Jacob. Ultimately, the Israelites, and when we come back into our culture and our ways, this is what we tune back into. We are the only nation that can do this. See, whole, upright, always in a moral sense. Right. It says Jacob was an upright man dwelling in tents. That's really what it's saying. When it called him a plain man, it says he was an upright man dwelling in tents, where it appears to indicate the milder and placid disposition of Jacob as opposed to the more ferocious character of Esau. Right. Let's get if I can get it. Let me see. Look at that. Even temper, quiet of a person or animal, not easily upset or excited, especially of a place or stretch of water. It says calm and peaceful with a little movement or activity. Jacob was calm and peaceful, you know, easygoing, even tempered, calm, tranquil, peaceable, you know. This is characteristics of Israelites in our natural state. It says, as opposed to the more ferocious character of Esau. Now it says savagely fierce, cruel, or violent, characterized by or involving aggression, bitterness, and determination, extreme and unpleasant. And this is who Jacob grew up beside. That's what they clashed. They clashed. They were complete opposites. You know, they were complete opposites. But this is how our people are moving. The 2/3 of our people are moving just like Edomites. When you look at these characteristics, this is how our people moving now. Because they're not attached to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. They're not home. You know, they're not at home. And home is us being attached to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua in their ways. Because Jacob, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, this is still the lineage, the sons of God. So they have characteristics. They had characteristics of Yahweh Yahushua. Just like we are now being back tuned or aligned with our power. So now we're being back tuned and aligned with the characteristics of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. Now let's get I said we'll get a couple more translations. So now that we understand it, let's get the New King James Version. So the boys grew, and Esau was a skillful hunter, a man of the field, but Jacob was a mild man, dwelling in tents. NLT. As the boys grew up, Esau became a hunter, a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home. NET. When the boys grew up, Esau became a skilled hunter, a man of the open fields, but Jacob was an even-tempered man, living in tents. So it's telling you that Jacob, that NASB 20. When the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter and man of the field, but Jacob was a civilized man, living in tents. I don't think I can get the definition of this one. But it's, you know, he was civilized. And that one says peaceful. I think this is Spanish. It says tranquil. So that goes into peace. It even says simple. You know, we like to keep it simple. So now, from there, I'm going to go to Hosea. Well, before I get that. Before I get that. This is Proverbs 12 and 26. The righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth them. And we're gonna get a couple. We're gonna get excellent. I think this is excellent. No, this ain't excellent. Okay, we might have to get it on Google. Very good, and outstanding. Which is going into our characteristics. It's going into who we are. Which it doesn't, you know, it goes into it, but it doesn't really bring it out in a way that I'm trying to. Which you got perfect there too. So let's see about different translations. Because it's going into our characteristics. That's why I say the righteous is more excellent than his neighbor, but the way of the wicked seduceth him. Because the ways of these Edomites, as you can see, Esau is the polar opposite of who we are and how we were created to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and get Hosea chapter 4, verse 1 and 2, which verse 2 is the point. And I'm going to read in the AMP. It says, "Hear the word of the Lord, you children of Israel, for the Lord has a legal case with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no faithfulness, no steadfast love, no dependability or loyalty or kindness or knowledge of the Most High from personal experience with him in the land. And these are ways of the heathens. They are the ones who don't rely or trust on Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua. And he didn't create them to do so, but he created us to be like that." And now that since I said that, let me I'm gonna get two precepts real quick. This is Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 21 in the AMP. "Yet have I planted you, O house of Israel, as a choice vine, a completely faithful seed. How then have you turned against me into degenerate shoots of a foreign and wild vine, alien to me?" See, the Lord said he planted us a completely faithful vine, a choice vine. I'm reading the KJV. Yet I had planted thee a noble vine, wholly a right seed. How then art thou turned into the degenerate plant of a strange vine unto me? See, the Lord saying, I made you to be upright, starting with your forefather. Esau and Jacob were polar opposites. They were completely opposite in nature and characteristics. But now, the way our people are, they're not moving like they are Israelites. They're not moving like they were Jacob, like how Jacob was. They're moving like Esau. They're under the spirit and vibration of these Edomites, which is the wicked. Now let me go back to Hosea chapter 4. Verse 1 again, A and P. Hear the word of the Lord, you children of Israel. For the Lord has a legal case with the inhabitants of the land, because there is no faithfulness, no steadfast love, no dependability, or loyalty, or kindness, or knowledge of the Most High from personal experience with him in the land. See, the Lord said he made us a choice vine. He made us to be upright, but we turned into a degenerate plant. And I'm going to go back and get that definition of the word degenerate. But these are characteristics of degeneration. It says there is false swearing of oaths, deception, broken faith, murder, stealing, and adultery. They employ violence so that one act of bloodshed follows closely on another. And this literally happens within the Israelite community, not even just the so-called black community. Because you got the Northern Kingdom, Issachar, they do a lot of this too, especially with the murder. They employ violence. They got gangs. They got the cartels. They go and put hits out on people. Just like the Southern Kingdom do. They go and put hits out on people. Either they go and they commit violence, or they'll go hire somebody, tell somebody to put somebody else up to do it, to go murder. We know stealing goes on amongst the Israelite community all the time, and adultery is at an all-time high on the earth, especially amongst the Israelite community. So all these things take place amongst Jacob. But the Lord didn't create us to be that way. He created us to be upright. That's why he said that, going back to Jeremiah 2:21. That's why he said, yet I had planted in AMP, I had planted you, O house of Israel, as a choice vine, a completely faithful seed. How then have you turned into a degenerate shoot of a foreign and wild vine, alien to me? Let's see if we can get degenerate in the linear. We'll just say degenerate. Right. It says turned off. An example, deteriorated. Right. It says turned off. Yeah, and we use that term to this day. When something turns you off, it turns you away. It's something that's unattractive, unappealing. You know, it turned off. You get turned off from. You might see. If you just see anything, you know, we know what turned off is. Something that just makes it's unattractive, turns you off. Let's see. It says to removed or expelled, and exile and expelled. In Jeremiah 17:13, it says, "Those who were removed from me, who have departed," and that's our people. They've departed from Yahweh, which we all have departed from Yahweh by Shem Abishai, but we turn it back to the Lord. Let's see if we can get some more. To turn aside, to depart, to Salakia. It says to cause, to turn aside, to remove, to repel, to leave undone, to retract. This is what our people have done. They've retracted from Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, and in doing so, they retract from the ways he set before us. They retract from how we were created to be. So they left the home. They left home. You know, we left our natural state of how we were supposed to be and how we were supposed to behave on earth. Now let's get degenerate in Google. It says to decline or deteriorate physically or mentally, which is both physically, mentally, and spiritually. Decline or deteriorate in terms of quality, to become worse. This is where we at now. Our people have become degenerates. They've become worse. You know, they've deteriorated in terms of quality. Those characteristics that was associated with Jacob, we don't see that amongst the majority of our people. The Lord doesn't see that amongst the majority of our people, which is why I said we just want to go back home. You know, I was using myself for an example, wanting to go back home, wanting to go back to our natural state of how we supposed to be. It feels good when we're able to elevate and do things that's pleasing to Yahweh by Hashem Abishai, because it's all for our benefit and to fulfill his will. It says, having lost the mental The physical, mental, or moral qualities considered normal and desirable, showing evidence of decline. This is literally the nation of Israel. They have lost the physical, and just look at our women. They've completely neglected and done away with wanting to be natural. They don't want to look natural. They want to look like the heathens. They want to look like the other nations. And they do everything to look like the other nations. There shouldn't even be no reason why an Israelite woman is getting a BBL when you were naturally made to be greater and better than all the other nations. And no man is asking you to enhance your body. Literally, no man has told his woman, you need to go, or a man that actually care about his woman, so you need to go get some more ass. That ain't enough for me. No man has done that. But our women, like it said, have lost the physical, and then men too. It ain't just the women, men too. Men don't even know how to be men. Oh, I ain't even get on the whole alphabet community. The physical, mental, our people they don't consider, like, our people are severely underdeveloped in all aspects. You can't even put everything in words. They are severely underdeveloped morally, like I say, morals, doing what's right and knowing what's right and wrong, like the Lord said in Hosea chapter 4. He's like, look, it's so much violence going on in y'all communities. There's a lot of stealing, and it ain't no faithfulness, ain't no trustworthiness, no dependability. It's a lot of murder, a lot of adultery. All these things are going on. The Lord is sitting here watching all this go on. Our people have morally declined and spiritually. They don't. Not only do they not know the Lord, they don't care to know the Lord. They don't care about Yahweh, about Shem Yahushua, what He demands. They say they in their mind, they say if He real, He gonna accept them on their terms, and they'll deal with Him when they get there. That's how they think. That's how they move. Like I said, having lost the physical, mental, or moral qualities considered normal and desirable. The way Jacob was, and the type of fruit that was being produced through Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or that righteous lineage, that was desirable to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. And it was normal, because that's how we were created to be. But you don't see that in the majority of our people no more, showing evidence of decline. So, like it says, having reverted to a simpler form as a result of losing the complex or adaptive structure present in the ancestral form. So, our people have lost a complex and adaptive structure. They have lost the ways of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua, which made us the top people on the earth. That's what it say in Deuteronomy chapter 7, chapter 4, 7 and 4. We were created to be above the other nations, but it wasn't because of anything that we has done. It's because the Lord put His love on us. He made the covenant with us and gave us laws, statutes, and commandments that made us civilized. Like I said, it was present in our ancestral form. It was present. It started with Jacob. Well, I mean, beyond Jacob, not started with Jacob, but Jacob. It went into Jacob's characteristics because Jacob's name was changed to Israel. So this is what look, an immoral or corrupt person, and like it says, the derogatory, immoral or corrupt person. That's literally Esau's characteristics. Our people are moving in the vibration of Edomites, the wicked, an immoral or corrupt person. So they have left far away from home. Like they like the Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man. Far, far away from home, or far away from home, or like the land in Shrek. It says far, far away. That's our people. They are far, far away from home, degenerates. But we have turned to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. I'm gonna keep going. Verse 22. For though you wash yourself with lye and use much soap, the stain of your guilt is still before me, and you are soiled and dirty, says the Lord. And I'm gonna read it in the KJV. It says, For though thou wash thee with nitre and take thee much soap, yet thine iniquity is marked before me, said the Lord. How canst thou say, I am not polluted? I have not gone out to Balaam. See thy way in the valley. Know what thou hast done. Thou art a swift dromedary transversing her ways. And I'm going to read this in the AMP. How can you say I am not defiled? I have not gone out to man-made gods like the Baals. Look at your way in the valley. Know without any doubt what you have done. You are a swift and restless young female camel in the heat of her passion, running here and there, running to all these other guys, trying to just like basically like a woman, you know, a woman that's undisciplined, out of control. She giving it up to everybody. That's how our people doing. They running out to all these other guys. Or you have the untamed and reckless nature of a wild donkey accustomed to the wilderness that sniffs the wind in her passion for the scent of a mate. In her mating season, who can restrain her? No male seeking her need to weary themselves. In her mouth, they will find her looking for them. In her month, they will find her looking for them. So she just hopping from, this how the animals do. They go from male to male. And this is how our women do. But ultimately, the Lord said this is how the nation was doing, going after all the other gods. This is how our people are. They looking just like the other nations. It's no difference. Now, the mass majority, but the elect is coming out of that, So, like, even going back to what I was saying with myself, when I, doing my look, when I was frustrated with myself for going off, I was like, I just want to go home. I want to go back to where I was. I want to go back to how I was operating before, prior to, going off. And I'm getting one more. What was I going to get? Lamentations 2. All right, this is Lamentations chapter 4, verse 1 in the AMP. How dark and dim the gold has become. How the pure gold has changed. The sacred stones of the temple are poured out and scattered at the head of every street. And this is going into the men, the sons of Jacob, our men, The noble and precious sons of Zion, once worth their weight in fine gold, how they are regarded merely as earthen jars, the work of a potter's hand. Right. So like he said, like the scriptures say, we were once noble, precious sons, and every one of us were worth the weight in fine gold. We was more precious than gold, because of our characteristics, because of who we were. Because of the laws, statutes, and commandments that made us who we were, because of Yahweh by Shem Abishai, who made us who we were. But now you see our people they've become that degenerate plant. They've deteriorated, they become like Edomites and really worse, our people are worse because we were created to be righteous, but Esau was created to be wicked. At least he's doing what he's created to do. Our people, we ain't doing. Our people, they're not doing what they were created to do, or not being, or showcasing the characteristics in which they were created to exemplify. Verse 3: Even the jackals offer the breast; they nurse their young, but the daughter of my people have become cruel, like ostriches in the wilderness that desert their young. So it even go into the women. It said the women, they become cruel. They don't even care about their young ones, their children. Our people have become degenerate because our women in the ancient world, they love their children. It's in our commandments that women were taught to love their husbands and love their children. But you don't see that going on. But you see nothing but degeneration among our nation. That's why the Lord that's why he's cleaning up the elect, because he's going to start over with the elect, and the rest of the nation, 2/3 they're going to be brought back through the elect. And every one of us is gonna be in our right mind then, you know. But just wanted to kind of touch on that point of being home, you know. And when I mean being home is, like I said, you know, us being in our natural state of how we were created to be, showcasing the characteristics in which Yahweh Hashem Yahushua created us to have. So, Lord wills edifying. And on that note, I want to give our praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS that rule well. Peace, love, and salutations to all the brothers out there pushing this word of sincerity and the truth. Shalom to the brothers, sisters, and children out there keeping this word of sincerity and the truth. And until next time.